evening. Welcome to Community and Technology, where we connect the global community with news, information, and resources that we hope will help improve your life. I'm Stu Reed. Here's my co-host, Dave Bernstein. Hey, Dave.
Well, I don't know if it's going to improve your life, but maybe it's going to protect what's going on in your life. Our first story is about just how good deepfakes are and who's using them.
The current election campaign that's going on. And here we have Donald Trump generating some deep fakes, AI generated images of Taylor Swift fans claiming their support for Donald Trump. Apparently, some posts on Truth Social, Trump's media platform, as well as on X, formerly known as Twitter, purporting to show a number of young women wearing Swifties for Trump t-shirts. And then something saying, Taylor wants you to vote for Donald Trump. And then a harumph from Trump saying, I accept. And now this has been examined by a nonprofit called True Media. And apparently they say it's fake. So
Only some of it. Two of the pictures were real, but the rest were all totally fake. And even worse, they were picked up on a site that said, if you actually looked at the site closely, satire. And Donald Trump just put them on the web.
So now, is that something that folks can hide behind, Dave, just putting out outright lies like that and calling it satire? I mean, that sounds pretty suspect.
There's a whole lot of things in U.S. politics that sound pretty suspect today.
Got that right. You got that right.
But the takeaway from this and from the stories we're about to give you is that the deep fakes of voice, personality on the other end, even what language the person who is sending you text messages speaks, it's getting better and better constantly. You cannot believe what you see, hear, or read unless you know where it came from, and I'm pretty sure about that.
That's a pretty frightening proposition, Dave, especially given how addicted so many of us are, certainly the American culture, to media, whether it be internet generated or some other base, whether it be cable TV or whatever. But the fact that AI is getting so good at producing fake images, fake video, fake audio. Like you said, you can't believe what you see or hear anymore. And, I get your precaution, know who's sending it to you, know who's talking to you. But I'm wondering if even that is a secure way to know that what you're getting is authentic.
We had quite a story on that about 2 months ago, where serious money, I forget how much it was, a few $100,000 or so, was sent to a scammer by somebody working inside a company in the finance division, access to the bank account, and he had a note saying, please log into this, saw pictures that looked like the chief financial officer of the company and sounded like the chief financial officer of the company was saying, transfer this money to account so-and-so. And he did. But it was fake everything. This Zoom conversation, the voices, and he couldn't tell.
Yeah. And they lost a lot of money, I understand, because of that. And I don't know if there's any recourse. I mean, who do you go to for redress on that? I don't think you can.
Well, a lot of people are working on this in different ways. One of them is that Zoom certainly can see what the video looks like and catch it. the voice, again, you can probably catch voice. You probably can catch video. You can't catch a well done picture, however. And my source on that is OpenAI, which said that they could not find a way to prevent people using their DALL-E 3 image generator, creating a deep fake, bypassing all the security they were thinking they were trying to put in, and doing things like taking the picture, which had a security meta tag, sending it to another program that just read in the picture and killing the meta tag, killing the security. There is no security guarantee on the web, and you'd have to totally change the web to make it even more intrusive than the most surveillance-prone countries in the world, some of which are even worse than the United States.
Wow. Well, now what we're talking about deep fakes and not only their technological capability, but some of the impact out here in the real world. You ran across a story where there's deep fake activity related to election activity in New York City. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, I was thinking I opened with that because people don't realize we're community and technology here at WHCR, the voice of Harlem. And in our community, there are already deep fakes that are tied right into the election. Now, this one was a website set up, somebody named Jennifer Raskuzuma, an assembly member from Queens, is running for controller. She didn't take her name, Jenny Rakuzuma.com. Somebody grabbed it, put up some stories about her that were real from the New York Post, and I believe put up some photos that had been created by the person who put up this false website. Right here in New York, it's hitting home. Can't ignore it. It's like when we started having COVID come into New York, you better not ignore it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it's coming again somewhat. The rates of COVID have more than doubled in the last 2 months. There are new strains going around. You may need to get another booster shot if you believe in things like that.
Okay, well, maybe we'll have another show where we talk a little bit what's going on with that and how that's impacting us. But in the meantime, so deep fakes are hitting the New York airways. Is this online deep fake? This woman's running for controller, right, Dave? The one that
And
you mentioned.
somebody got her name, put up a website in her name, Jennifer whatever.com, and put on there some real stories and some fake ones. And it looks, and until you read it and realize how negative it was, you might very well think it was the real person running for controller.
And it's been characterized as a parody campaign site. I mean, whatever the heck that means.
It means that it's hard to sue them for it. The Supreme Court a while back recognized parodies and satires as being legitimate as long as it's clear that's what they were. And so in the Elon Musk one story we picked up, the sites that he personally or whoever is running his Truth Social picked up in his name actually on one of the pictures said satire, but they didn't notice and sent those deep fakes of Swifties for Trump out over the web. Now, I will guarantee you that in the billion or so fans that Swift has, some of them support Donald Trump. And in fact, she said the last time he was running some really ugly things about him. She does not support Donald Trump, no matter what you have seen on the web.
Yeah. Well, lies or parody. I don't know where you draw the line on that one, Dave. Now, you mentioned Elon Musk. There's a story that surfaced about him and reacting to some stuff that one of his engineers did.
Before we get to that,
Mhm.
let me take it away from you for a minute. The hook on this is that there is a slew of deepfakes being created on Grok. Elon Musk, large language model, slews and slews of fake images that, for example, have one candidate for president rubbing the belly of that other candidate for president looking very pregnant. They have Donald Trump giving a hug to the dictator from North Korea. They have both the candidates for president aiming rifles and handguns at the screen as though they're looking to shoot you.
Now, what side is this, Dave? This is on X?
This is created by the software you can get to from X, Donald Trump's model Grok, that has now added visuals to it.
Okay.
You can't get to it unless you pay, at this point, unless you're paying Musk $8 a month, as I do, to get his premium service. And it's interesting. What he picked up is a package program that is so good. It's called Flux. It comes from Germany, that it absolutely can make pictures that you have to look at really closely if they want to be if they're trying to be photorealistic, and put absolutely false images at them. Some of them violence, some of them political, some of them very much sexual. Although that's an interesting thing. What do you think about making legitimate pictures or pictures of absolutely false people, not pretending to be anything other than a sexy picture with complete nudity?
I think that's kind of crazy, Dave. Especially when you take pictures of real people and then match them up with some other nude bodies. I think that's pretty disgusting. I know there's a recent lawsuit filed by the city of San Francisco against 16 popular what's called nudification sites. And these are sites, Dave, that allow people to make explicit deepfake images of virtually anyone and put a naked body on them, whether it be male or female. And it's all over the place. They're using it to go after young boys and underage females to entice them to do various things, to kind of blackmail them, if you will, for threatening the release of certain photos that are fake. And so there's all kind of really nefarious stuff going on. And this lawsuit in San Francisco is they're trying to not just block what's going on, they're trying to actually shut down these sites. And
impossible.
Yeah.
Utterly impossible.
They'll pop up someplace else, right? And out of the jurisdiction, out of the U.S. jurisdiction.
And this is part of the world we live in today.
Yeah.
And we who are in the tech world are here on the radio are trying to warn you what we're seeing every day.
Yeah. So yeah.
So some of these deep fakes are being created via the image generation software from Elon Musk. Elon Musk is an absolutely brilliant engineer and an absolutely brilliant businessman, although he makes a lot of mistakes. People forget the mistakes because the successes include Starlink, Tesla, and the one of the many neural implant folks that are
Right.
letting people who couldn't talk for physical reasons, like uh, ALS, actually express themselves in their own voice. I don't know if Musk has the in your own voice, but some folks out of the University of California in San Francisco Hospital have done just that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So there's lots of good things from all this software, but it certainly can create some ugly things. Now, Musk is a brilliant idiot. I made a point of saying how brilliant he is. And people who've worked with him say he's an inspiring manager
Hmm.
who inspires them to work better than they ever did before in their life, 6 and 7 days a week. So there's a lot of things about Musk that are, I guess, positive. But here's a story. Why don't you read the story from Wired about the brilliant internet idiot? It's longer than we usually go, but it's a good story.
Yeah, let me read it for our listeners. This is verbatim from Wired Magazine. At about 10 o'clock on Saturday evening, an angry Musk was examining one of the production line's mechanized modules, trying to figure out what was wrong, when the young, excited engineer was brought over to assist him. Hey, buddy, this doesn't work, Musk shouted at the engineer, according to someone who heard the conversation. Did you do this? The engineer was taken aback. He had never met Musk before. Musk didn't even know the engineer's name. The young man wasn't certain what exactly Musk was even asking him or why he sounded so angry. You mean the program the robot, the engineer said, or design that tool? Did you effing do this? Musk asked him. I'm not sure what you're referring to, the engineer apologetically said. You're an effing idiot, Musk shouted back. Get the F out and don't come back. As it turns out, the engineer walked away, and to his shock, a few days later, he was given his separation papers. All this despite the fact that he was a hardworking young man and was about to get a review from his manager the next week. And he had only been hearing positive things about his work. But he got caught in the middle of a tirade from the brilliant idiot, and that essentially ended his career at Muscat operation. So there you have it, Dave. Brilliant idiot. So, I guess that kind of temperament often goes with that kind of brilliance, and the intensity and the short attention span that goes with that kind of effervescent brilliance that you just can't turn off. But that's a very unfortunate side effect.
Yeah. Well, a slightly positive bit on deep fakes. We know that the Russians and the Iranians and the Chinese are trying to spread their view of the world across the world, including, as best they can, interfering with the US election.
Mm-hmm.
There's some who think that Donald Trump wouldn't have been elected if it hadn't been for some false propaganda generated by the Russians. Of course, the US is doing the same thing in Iran and Venezuela and many countries around the world. Meta was the site that was used by the Russians for these attacks. And they said that this year they're watching very closely and they've managed to block most of the sites from Russia that are trying to infect Americans with false information.
Wow, that's big.
Well, I'm sure the Russians, who are as smart as we are going to find some ways around that.
Mm-hmm.
But people are working at trying to minimize the impact of this.
Well, that's good. I think, 8 years ago, I think folks were blindsided by all the stuff that was going on and had no idea and didn't even have their defenses up. Maybe more so 4 years ago. But that's good to hear that this election cycle, at least the big guys are paying close attention. Granted, you can't stop the kind of cyber criminality, if you will. I think you can, from what I've observed, Dave, you can put up roadblocks, you can slow it down, but as soon as you close off one avenue, there's another one available. So I don't know that we're going to be able to eliminate that kind of meddling, but I'm happy to hear that Meta is at least having some results in blocking some of the incursions.
Do we have time before the break for some more stuff?
Yeah, we got about 3 or 4 minutes before we got to take a break.
Okay. Given that this show so far has been the warnings about what the web and AI can do to us, or is doing to us. We had a story about one going after a New York politician with some fakes. Thought I'd throw in some positive stuff.
Okay.
A fellow I read suggested that you use AI as a language teacher. He's learning European Portuguese, and he asked AI to be his tutor. He's using Claude Sonnet. You can use any of several of them. And he sent them the direction, the prompt. Have a simple conversation with me in European Portuguese in the simple present tense, and correct me in English when I get anything wrong. Start by asking me about my day. If I respond with something said wrong, repeat what you said in English for me. That sounds great. And let me talk about why that now is easy and why you can do it. And I need to learn Chinese. I don't know if I'll ever be able to speak it because of the tones, but I have to be able to read it because a lot of the interesting stuff is happening over there. The first thing is, yes, you can talk to your AI on your computer. Voice chat absolutely is there, absolutely is working. The AI can be surprisingly good. AI probably is not yet sentient or an intelligent being. There's a lot of reasoning it can't do, but it can do an excellent job faking it. Faking that it is a human being on the other side of that voice chat.
Certainly, that's good enough for what you're talking about, Dave. I mean, for a tutorial where you're trying to learn something, you don't need to know that that's a person on the other side. You just need to be guided in a language that you understand. So I mean, that works.
And that's the kind of wonderful thing we're seeing out there.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So we do have to take a break, Dave. That's a very positive story about AI. It's something for us to applaud. And I know there are a lot of folks. I had an incredible time trying to learn a foreign language in college. So I'm happy to hear that maybe there's a better way. Okay. This is Community Technology on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem with Dave Bernstein and Stu Reed. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a brief musical break.
Generation
Okay, we're back. Community and Technology with Dave Burstein and Stu Reed on WHCR 90.3 FM. Dave, we've been talking about AI and a lot of the negative stuff going on with deep fakes and some other things, but there are a couple of positive stories and developments in technology not related to AI. One of them has to do with some electric ships. Tell us about that, Dave.
Okay, hydrofoils work. They're being used around the world, both by amateur hobbyists and as ferries. Hydrofoils are an incredible looking thing. They look like an airplane with two foils going down into the water, flying feet above the water. What's happening is that the hydrofoil is like an airplane, and using the shape of the foil of the the shape of the wing on an airplane, I'm not sure what they call it on a hydrofoil, they raise up a few feet and go twice as fast.
So it skims along the top of the water. Is that right, Dave?
Just above the water.
So it doesn't have to fight the water, doesn't have the resistance of the water to move.
And in Saudi Arabia, they're going to have 8 of these working on electricity. From Candela, it's the Candela P12. It claims it's the world's first electric hydrofoil ship, and it's going to be used as a ferry in Saudi Arabia, carrying 20 or 30 people at a time. And it can go 25 miles an hour, much faster than the Staten Island ferry.
Yeah, that's pretty fast on for water speed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because it's much more efficient than running in water, it's able to use much less juice, in this case, electricity from batteries, and save a great deal of electricity. There's no reason we couldn't have that going from New York to New Jersey or Manhattan to Brooklyn.
Right.
And maybe someday soon, we'll see some hydrofoils flying above the Hudson River. That's one good one.
Yeah, that'd be great to see, Dave. That's exciting use of technology.
Yep. A lot of the stuff in technology doesn't happen in the United States. Although if you follow the media, even competent media, like the New York Times, you miss so much of what's going on outside. For example, in Washington, everybody's talking about how we have to maintain our lead in artificial intelligence. Guess what? The Chinese have basically caught up to us. But that's another story.
So, Dave, you another recent development, positive development in technology. You were talking about some new device from Huawei, a new phone device from Huawei. What's going on there?
Well, they're now shipping a fair number of foldable phones out there. Samsung, Huawei, presumably soon Apple, that are the size of a regular phone, but unfold to be much larger, the size of an 8-inch tablet. Well, Huawei CEO Richard Yu on a plane was photographed using Huawei's Trifold smartphone.
Trifold, Dave? 3 folds?
2 folds.
2 folds, 3 panels.
3 panels. And it works. And he was seen using it. And somebody on this plane got a photo of it. It's been all over Chinese media. And they have a functioning trifold phone that can unfold to the size of a 10-inch tablet.
Wow.
Like in Apple iPad.
Wow.
It's going to be expensive. The one-fold phones now are usually around $500 more than the cost of a premium phone, like $1,500. And I don't know what the trifold phone is going to cost, but when the first ones hit the market, well, you probably won't be able to buy it
Hmm.
because the United States is so committed to blocking technology from China that you can't sell a Huawei phone in the United
Oh, so
States.
you're not talking about cost prohibition. You're talking about availability prohibition, Dave. Is that right?
Absolutely. And it cost us a great deal. The Huawei blockade, forget the geopolitics of it, forget the fact that it is not working. And Huawei still made several $billions last year
Hmm.
and is making 10 million phones this year, despite our blockade. Cost us a whole lot
Hmm.
because technology does not just happen in the United States.
Right.
China is a peer of ours in artificial intelligence. We're not ahead. And as I get the papers, China is publishing more research in artificial intelligence in the United States. In fact, probably more than the United States and Western Europe put together.
Hmm. Wow.
And the people in AI are fine with this. All the top AI people work with people in China, go back and forth, give speeches at Chinese events, and so on. So it hasn't seemed to affect anybody, but the US government wants to block all that off.
Mm. When you say it doesn't affect anybody, you're talking about the scientific community, Dave, which I think for the most part does not see political boundaries in their work, in what they do. They are looking at the whole global scientific community as one, and I think they're to be applauded for that. But then you got the politicians that move in and want to maneuver and use particular breakthroughs for their own political advantage, and I guess that's where the whole blockade of Chinese technology comes in for this country.
And I have spent a whole lot of time learning about technology because telecom, Huawei passed the West a decade ago. And
Hmm.
I started reading the Chinese press because that was the only way to keep up on what was going on.
Hmm.
There's more fiber and more 5G wireless in China than the rest of the world put together.
Mm.
So to know what's going on, you have to keep up. And the technology in China is getting better and better every week, including in artificial intelligence.
Mm.
Now, AI has a wonderful thing happening. Most of it has an open style that puts the information out there. Some of it is complete open source software. You can take Meta's Llama and use it anywhere in the world. We were talking before about the images being created at uh, Elon Musk Mach. Well, that happens to be a pickup he has of an excellent piece of software called Flux, made in Germany, open source, so he can do whatever he wants, although I think they're working together on that one. And so can all the Chinese, and the Chinese are picking up things like Flux and Llama and all the open source. And we're picking up from them more and more. As I say, there is more research being published in China than in the United States. And nearly all the Chinese projects are open source, so that they're accessible to anybody in Munich, New York, or Thailand.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the way science works best.
Hmm. Now, Dave, before while we're at break, you were talking about some AI breakthroughs in videography. Is that coming from the Chinese? Where's that coming from?
Uh, the one that's the best that I'm looking at comes from California.
Hmm. Okay, U.S.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Topaz Ken rotoscope.
Hmm.
We were talking about changing the images for a still image, which everybody is doing for deep fakes. You now, using Topaz and presumably, and some other software, which I haven't looked at, it's probably not as good, take video, pick out the runner or the actress, have the software isolate that runner or actress and put in a completely different background.
Mm.
So do you want to see the fastest runners in the world over the Hudson River walking on water? It can be done now with a $300 piece of software.
$300, that's it?
They've got a consumer version that
Whoa.
doesn't run as fast, but does work. I've seen samples. You can do a full rotoscope, which is a Hollywood term for how they do that when they're doing it in the pictures. The motion pictures with big budgets, you now can do that on a fast home computer with a $300 piece of software.
Wow. That's
Now,
amazing.
we're going to see, because the ideas in all of this are very open. The Topaz is not an open source software, but there's a lot of open source software, including from China, that is doing video now. And I'm sure that Kaishu, which is the third largest producer of or distributor of short video in the world, number 2 to TikTok in China, $20 billion company, has a full video package that is being used widely, is available and is open source, and is I can go to it and use it, even download it if I want to.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Chinese have decided that they will move faster in technology using open source.
I guess that's not surprising, Dave. Open source means that everybody in the world, anybody in the world, can contribute to your particular software and help make it better, help it go faster, help it be more efficient. I mean, that's the whole one of the whole ideas behind open source, is it not?
And Mark Zuckerberg of Meta is one of the leading advocates in the world.
Really?
Yeah, he's spent. I did the workup on the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The better part of $2 billion creating Llama, an open source large language model that 6 weeks ago was as good or better than anything in the world, like closed source from OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
It's now slightly worse because they improved OpenAI in the last 6 weeks. And Zuckerberg is asked, why are you doing this? Why don't you hold all your advances for yourself? And Zook's answer was, well, if we put it out as open source, it's going to get better and better really fast. And he wants the better software. Well, have me tell you that story in a moment, but I can tell you that the open source is working because I know a number of projects around the world that takes the Llama open source and adds RAG and other ways of tuning it to make it work better. It can particularly be done, and is being done, if you want accurate results in one field. You want to keep track of electrical engineering, you add a whole lot of papers about electrical engineering into the model, and it works well. And people are doing that for law in the US and in medicine around the world. Open source means more progress.
Right. And
it makes it harder to make
faster.
money, perhaps, but Facebook is making enough money.
Yeah.
Can I go to the AI story?
Yeah, sure. We got about 4 minutes left, Dave. But I just want to mention that's pretty remarkable coming from Mark Zuckerberg, a guy who built his whole fame and fortune on Facebook walled garden model, if you will, that now this foray into AI is open source. But I guess that's a testament to his vision that that's what it's going to take to really make his thing fly.
Let me tell you more about what he's doing. He is using the large language model not to sell it to you for doing your searches, making your fake videos or whatever. He's using it to make his own software much better.
Hmm.
So he has incorporated the open source into WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
Voice app that is being used by 500 million people around the world. And that is actually live and available now. It hasn't gotten much publicity and it doesn't have too many great features yet. But he has said that by the end of 2024, he wants to have the largest network of AI users in the world, AI agents. The same thing is happening in fact, he will be at 1 billion AI users sometime between 6 and 12 months from now. Microsoft is trying to do the same thing. You go into Microsoft Word and say, improve what I just wrote and check the grammar. And it's using AI. In their case, they're getting it from OpenAI, which they have financial control over after investing $13 billion and improving Microsoft Word and all the Microsoft products. So while most of us are using AI by using these language models and so on, we are going to be using AI to get rid of that background noise from the leaf blower that's by where Stu is talking. And that can work too. You can kill noise and audio like a charm with 11 Labs. Jenny is actually doing it on live projects. And it will become part of everything we're using on our cell phone and in the web. For example, right now on a Samsung phone and shortly on Apple phones and on most of the top line phones coming from China, you can talk in English and have the other side hear German. And the other side can talk in German and you can hear it in English.
All this in real time, right? There. We're not talking about waiting.
Real time.
Real time.
That is not lab work, not fancy stuff. That is working on the better cell phones.
Wow.
Top of the line Samsung, top of the line Google.
Mm-hmm.
And next month, when Apple comes up with a new phone, they're going to have something like that too.
Wow.
That's a good one. There are we spent the first half of the show talking about the dangers of deep fakes and other things. And that's real. It's already being used by Donald Trump in the national campaigns and by somebody who hates a particular candidate for controller here in New York City. But there are also wonderful things happening.
Yeah.
And we, non-commercial, thoroughly independent, and both of us with enough experience in technology to see a lot of things, will continue bringing it to the air. On what show?
Community and Technology, WHR 90.3 FM, every Wednesday, 5 p.m. So we got time for just one more story, maybe, Dave. Do we have any other positive news to throw out there? I know that.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's end up on an upbeat story.
And it's not in the notes for the show, so you can't see it. But on the break, I had a rye bread, grilled cheese.
Yum.
And it was good, just fine. I like rye bread. It has more substance to it and is richer, but is not as off-putting as whole wheat bread is to me. The interesting piece of science that I've just discovered is that in the last 10 years, the science of botany, of plants, has exploded and is totally different than you expect. The roots of trees send out signals to the roots of the tree next to them. When some trees have seedlings growing nearby, the roots of the big tree mature, which are bigger than the tree itself usually, are able to supply nutrients to the other little trees there to help them grow. I didn't believe it either.
Yeah, well,
trees talking to each other?
Yeah.
Chemically? And
plant communication, not just people.
Absolutely solid science.
Yeah, everything in the environment talks and communicates with everything else. That's something that I believe. I mean, some of the science is just catching up with that, but there's an energy field that's all interconnected across the planet, across the universe, really.
The other thing that the plant scientists have discovered is that plants mimic other plants in the background.
What do they mean by that?
Well, we know what a chameleon is. That's a little lizard who can change the color of their skin to blend in, whether it's on a rock or in the desert.
Right.
Plants go further than that. Plants are smarter than animals and people, apparently. What one of the vines, and again, absolutely solid science, can do is mimic the appearance of nearby plants by shaping its leaves to look just like the plant that the bugs don't like because it's got a poisonous coating on its surface. That's a climbing vine that's common in parts of South America, and everybody in the field is studying it. And what it lets it do is it allows weeds to survive where human beings would want to pick them up, including apparently ancient wheat fields. 10 or 12,000 years ago, humans started cultivating domestic wheat and corn and so on. A weed was considered a weed that was being pulled out, called something vetch, had the ability to mimic the wheat plant so that it had a big pod of seeds on top, large seeds, which allowed wheat to become easy to cultivate and to grind into grain, and started succeeding and not being torn out in wheat fields. That weed went from the wheat fields of the Fertile Crescent north with the wheat that was being moved and cultivated in the north, because it looked just like wheat, enough to fool people. Well, what happened is, when it got to colder climates, it turned out the weed was more fertile than wheat. And people started looking for it and growing it and it grows in North Germany and Scandinavia very widely. And we now call it rye.
Wow.
As in the rye bread sandwich I just had at the break.
Okay, you came all the way around with that one, Dave. Nice. Well, intelligence and communication in biology and in the plant world, that's astounding. But we got to leave it there, Dave. We're about out of time. We are out of time.
Okay.
So thank you, Dave, for that. Yeah, that insight and for being a part with me of community and technology here on WHR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem, every Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. on 90.3 FM And don't forget, we're on the web worldwide at whcr.org. Tune in. You just might learn something. Thank you. Good night.